What is going on, my friends? My name is Parker Andriese, DJ of 10 years and host of Behind the Energy podcast. I've been able to meet some pretty awesome people along the way, and we're bringing them on here to go behind the energy, sharing their stories, lessons learned, and shine light on some of their major milestones. If you're into DJing, the event industry, or entrepreneurship, I think you'll dig the show. I really appreciate you being here with me. Now that we've set the table, it's time to jump right in and get started with today's episode. Open some things up and whatnot. Are we sounding good, my dude?
We're sounding good.
Check. Today's August 1st. Today's August 1st.
Can you believe it?
2022. No. We're about to enter in some busy months.
I only have 2 events this month, so I'm feeling good.
I love that for you.
Knocking it off on Wednesday.
Yeah, we're working together 2 times in 1 week. Yeah.
Wait, 2 times in 1 week? Oh, wait.
Two.
Okay, freaking gave me a heart attack from it. I'm like, what do you mean?
We're here for episode 51 on Behind the Energy podcast. My friends, if you're watching on YouTube or listening on YouTube, thank you. And then if you're listening from out of the state or even in a different country, thank you so much. That is awesome. We've got listeners in over 33 different countries, Alex.
Oh, wow. Wow, celebrity.
No, it's just fun to see the growth, especially with a year of doing this. So
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to do. So you know, but you have good tips, so why wouldn't they follow, right?
It's the guests that we're here. We're here to listen and learn from. Alex, maybe just a little preface for the conversation. Each episode is a different guest, and it ranges from DJing, the event industry, and entrepreneurship. And I like to spend a lot of time getting to know their story and like their thought process, and talking about like some of the milestones or learning lessons in their journey, their story, if you will. And so to essentially start out, I want to spend the first podcast. This is going to be a 2-part episode, if you will. I want to spend the first portion talking more about your story, and then the second one's going to be a little bit more questions specific in the event industry, if you will.
Okay.
So you are a part owner in Over the Top Events. You have a partner, and your partner's name, not your mother, who's...
she is friends with my mother, so that's close. Her name's Heidi Vassell.
Heidi, okay.
She's just a friend of mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And was Heidi doing floral in the floral industry prior?
She was, yeah. So a little bit about how we kind of came together is I mentioned my mom, who works with me as well. Uh-huh. She's one of my day of event assistants. Her and Heidi are good friends, and I actually grew up in the same neighborhood that Heidi currently lives in. So I've known Heidi since I was like much younger, like before I went to college and all that stuff.
Okay.
And then Heidi is just like a creative herself. She's really like hands-on. She's very creative with her hands, and she's an amazing florist, and she is a self-taught florist. And so when I graduated from college and I kind of took a career sidestep, I kind of started getting myself into the event industry. I've always been kind of passionate about weddings, and we can kind of get into that in a second. But Heidi she started off by doing her niece's wedding, and then more people were just like, oh, those flowers that you did were amazing. Like, can you do my daughter's wedding? And it just kind of spiraled that way. And then we both kind of were in the event industry starting off together. So we kind of leaned on each other for like style shoots, or just like opportunities to kind of get more work out there or have more photos, because that was kind of like at the rise of Instagram. And
what year was that? It was like 2012.
Let's see. No, it
13?
wasn't. It was 2016 that we officially became partners.
Okay.
October 2016. And then I guess I kind of got into it, started my own company around 2015.
Okay.
So I guess Instagram had been around, but it wasn't even like what it is now, like, so, a while ago. But she kind of wanted to, I was starting to like book these higher end weddings, and Heidi wanted to kind of get into that. And I was about to have my first baby, and I was really stressed out about just like having like a support system. Like, I was still like fairly new in the industry, and it's just hard to like, I don't know, I just like started getting scared about being like a business owner and being a new mom and like doing all these things. And just, we do totally separate jobs. So it's just more like we're doing this together, but we're still doing our separate jobs. So it was just kind of nice for us to lean on one another. And just like, once we kind of became partners, our company just exploded. So
even though like you may not, at least at the time, directly support each other in what you're doing,
right,
in a partnership, like you do have someone you can lean on if
sure
you need something, or you got a question about something, or a resource to something.
Even if it's just like, hey, this is kind of something that's like arising. Like, how should I handle this? Or what would you do about this? Or have you heard of anybody to do this? Like, we both will kind of just like bounce ideas off of one another. It's really appealing for our clientele that like we have full control over aesthetic. So, you know, from a planning perspective, I have brides that come to me with different needs, whether they're a full planning bride, a partial planning bride, or they just want somebody to come in, do the day of coordination to make sure everything goes smoothly. But those day of coordination brides, you know, they're doing all their own planning, where normally I wouldn't have a say over like how the aesthetic is going to look. But bringing in a florist, which at one point, it's not this way anymore, and we can talk about that in a second, but it would be non-negotiable. Like, if you're using me, you have to use Heidi. If you want Heidi, you have to use me. Like, we come together.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of how we built our like luxury brand and kind of got into more of like the luxury scene. And of course, like getting in with minimums, budgets, all that kind of thing.
Because you're able to literally design it from scratch and curate or build like this idea that this couple has.
Exactly. So I would always come to those floral appointments, even if they were just a day of coordination client, vocalize my opinion, vocalize some things that would flow well. Heidi, of course, is great with what she does at suggesting decor, style, all that stuff. So I would at least have my foot in on the aesthetic of how like the overall event is going to look.
Wow.
So that's nice.
Sorry, Alex. I want to take a quick step back. Alex is a wife, a mother of two, and owner with Heidi of Over the Top Events. Can you give a brief introduction of what Over the Top Events is, so those who may not, you know, be a part of the community have a decent understanding or some context?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Alex Jaramillo, as you just said.
Jaramillo, yes.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yes, thank you.
It's spelled nothing as it sounds. So that's a tricky one. I think it's very intimidating for people to say my last name. But Over the Top Events is a luxury wedding planning and floral design company based here in Utah. We've done some destination weddings. They're fun and super crazy, but we are mainly based here in the Salt Lake Valley and Park City. We'll kind of tinker in Utah County every once in a while, but that's what we do.
Thank you. Tell me, I didn't know y'all were doing work outside the state. Give me an example, or like tell me.
We've done a couple of like destination weddings in California, and they were really fun and kind of crazy, but to be completely transparent, it's not for me right now. Like, I would never say like no if the opportunity, like the right person, the right client maybe presented itself, but I put my family first, and I've got young kids that like need me right now, and I'm not really willing to be away from them for more than a day. So
I love the transparency and like where the focus is at.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly I'm in a different boat. I'm not even dating, let alone married or
That's
have
okay.
kids. But like having that balance in this industry is something that I believe, and I feel like is a common belief amongst most, that it's not always not always easy to maintain the balance.
Yeah.
I know some vendors like have like a certain number of events that they'll work in a month or a year, whatever.
Yeah, I do that too.
You still do that?
I do. Awesome. I had to set some boundaries with myself a couple years ago because, you know, I just like, I want to give my full attention to my kids and my brides. So I didn't want to like be at max capacity. So I actually only take 12 to 15 events a year. And then a new rule starting just this year is I am only doing 2 per month at max, because I don't know. You know this, you don't know when the clients are going to come, and you don't know what date they're going to have, what month it is. Like, oddly enough, I'm almost at full capacity for next year already. And so many people are coming at me for September. And I'm like, what is this about September? Like, where's my June brides? Where's my May brides? August? Like, nobody on the docket yet for June and August, which is so weird. But I've literally turned down like 6 people for September because it's already booked, which is funny. Like every year is different, I guess is what I'm saying. So I kind of was at my like, I'm not doing this anymore. It was last year. I was like 8 months pregnant. It was August and I had 6 events last August and it was fine because like I was having a baby in October. So I was going to go on a big maternity leave. So it was like, whatever, I'll do it. But it was so exhausting, pregnant or not, that I was just like, I'm not doing that anymore. God. And being a wedding planner, you're involved in every aspect of the day. So, you know, again, back to like the package differentiation, is that a word? It's, you know, even if it's just a day of coordination, which is my minimum, at some point, I'm involved in every aspect of the day. I at least know what's going on. Yes. So it just is like taxing to like have that all weighing on you.
Props to you for putting those boundaries down.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thankful that
this is like stuff I'm absorbing and I hope others as well.
I will say like kudos to my husband. Very thankful. Like sorry about that. I'm not the main breadwinner in our household and I'm very thankful that I don't have to be, you know, I feel like I get to do it all in a sense because of that. Like I have a partner that, you know, together we help bring in our income, provide for ourselves, provide for the kids. And he also has an amazing job that he has that gives him flexible hours. So like when I'm at weddings all day, he's at home with our kids. Like we don't have full-time nannies or anything. So we do have lots of babysitters and help that way, but it's nice. We're lucky. Wow. So
I wanted to jump back to college in just 1 second. I also wanted to say congratulations for 2023. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Are you accepting bookings for 2024 right now?
I'm not against it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow.
So a little side step too, just when I should have mentioned this about over the top events. I don't know, I guess it's like an big announcement here on the podcast today, drum roll. Heidi, my partner, is taking a little bit of a step back, which again, we're both really family oriented and we're selective. So she is just kind of at the point in her life where her kids are getting older. They're about to be empty nesters. And so she wants to go on lots of trips and spend family time. And, you know, we're in a very seasonal industry. And like, I have so many friends that are like, where are you going this summer? Are you traveling? And I'm like, nowhere. I've got to work. Like, this is like my time to be busy. So I totally respect that. So we're kind of, we are like one company. She's not like going away forever. I mean, maybe she is, but right now I don't think she will be fully ever taking a step back, but she is not currently taking any clients and I'm starting to hire other florists, which is totally fun. So
is that a little weird?
It's a little weird, but the floral community in Utah is so awesome. And, you know, Heidi's friends with a bunch of them. So, I mean, they know me through Heidi and it's fun to get to work with other people. Gotcha. So that's, you know, that's always fun. So Over the Top Events is living on through planning only right now. So yeah.
Heidi, congratulations. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, I know, I'm happy for her too.
Like that's kind of got to be tough to grapple with and come to terms with, but also like knowing for herself this is the right decision.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely think, I mean, she's amazing at what she did, at what she did and does. But, you know, I think you just got to put your self-care and self-needs first, and being a wedding, you know, planner, florist, DJ, caterer, it's not easy. It's so much work. It's so taxing on your body. It's mentally, physically exhausting. Like wedding days are long. It's not glamorous. Like I think people think that being a wedding planner seems like so glamorous, and it's like really not. It's sweaty.
It's that's a good way of putting it.
It is like
summarizing it.
Yeah, summer.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Outdoor weddings.
Yeah,
like
right
when people like want that vibe. It's like. I hear you, but it's not pleasant until like after 6:30 p.m.
I'm going to put a pin in the nature, that topic, the nature of wedding planning, because that's something I want to talk in.
Sorry, I keep bouncing.
No, I love this. And like, I've got a few notes, but I'm loving where the conversation is going naturally. And so if I check this, it's just to see where we're going next, and cover everything. So I want to put a pin on like, the nature of wedding planning, so we can talk about that in the next episode. I want to jump back to college real quick. What did you study in college?
You're gonna laugh because it's so different.
Culinary,
musical theater.
Music. Oh,
yep.
I feel like I knew this.
Yep, I know. Isn't that funny? And then so I've always like loved music. I love musicals. I've always been a theater fan. my whole life. Like as long as I can remember. I talked about musicals for a long time.
Like performing.
Yeah. Love it.
Really?
So fun. Yeah. So I got to like all through that in college. You know, that was my major. Did a lot of performing, started in a lot of musicals. It was great, living the dream. And then my husband was really supportive of all that. But my like senior year just kind of like died down a little bit, and it was just very burnt out. Like it's again kind of a, you know, in between job gig, you know, and, you know, I'll be completely transparent. Like I like making money. I like,
of course,
I like a steady paycheck. I like having control over that. And that's just like not an industry that you have control over that.
I see.
And it also like limits your opportunities. Like I mentioned, like that I'm kind of family oriented, and I didn't really want to like go on tour or be in between professional theater companies, you know, bouncing all over even the state of Utah. So I feel like it just like ultimately wasn't where I wanted to go. And I was kind of at a crossroads of like, you know what I mean? Like my next
senior
steps.
year in college. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're starting to think a lot more seriously about how you want to design your life, if you will.
For sure. And I'm like, oh crap, like I just wasted all this time in college. But at the end of the day, all those people who are out there in college, like good for you. College isn't like not something you should ever regret. If you have the opportunity to go to college, like you should take it. You know, I've learned so many things like with my degree that I like implicate in my career.
Whether that's stuff you learned in the class or related to your major or not.
Exactly. Generals, you know, general classes that you take it, you know, to get any bachelor's degree are informative. And then even things like with my, you know, BFA in theater, like there's so many skills that have transpired to my success as a wedding planner.
I love that. I can relate to that on so many levels because like I wasn't planning to go to college. I started when I was 21. It took me almost 6 years. And like taking a step back, like one of the biggest things I feel like I took away was the experiences and the people, and then also like how to challenge myself to accomplish some things that I never thought I could, or like be able to buckle down and push through. Because I'm just not good I'm not the greatest in terms of like the classroom setting, like focus and deep thinking sometimes.
Yeah, no,
math
I'm not
is the end of me.
100%. I am not. No.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. That's a no for me.
I do want to come back or center in a little bit more. What about theater? Or what similarities of theater and the event industry and weddings and wedding planning, like what similarities were present that made you realize that transition, or like tell me like the thought process between transitioning.
You know, I don't know. I feel like I've always been wedding obsessed, like from a young age. Like I always enjoyed going to wedding receptions, like tagging along with my parents, or like, you know, just like being in, I don't know, in those types of atmospheres. They're kind of a production. Like it is parallel in that sense where like, you know, musicals, like anything like that, they're a huge production. They're like, you know, this like fantasy in a lot of sense, you know, where it's a moment, it's like thought out, you know, whether it's like the costume design or the set or, you know, even like the story or plot. And I feel like weddings are kind of like that as well. Like they're this like huge production. They're costly, you know, there's like, you know, the luxury costumes, you know, the wedding dress, like something that like you're not wearing every single day. It's special.
Yes.
And so I feel like those kind of like align there. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been like a type A, proud of it. Like I'm like an organized person, and I like to, you know, I think it's a negative label to say like you're controlling, because I think that comes across like really negative, but I do like to be in control of my situations or, you know, what I've got going on in my day. And I think that is like in line with like being organized. That also is like with, at least like if you're going to be successful in like any type of acting or theater, you know, have to be on top of like your auditions, or even just scheduling your time with like memorizing lines, doing the things that you need to do like in preparation for rehearsals or auditioning. And so I feel like it kind of aligns in that way too. Like I'm very organized and I like to map out like what I'm doing. So that helps in both aspects.
The it wasn't performance. The word you used, not audition, performance.
Production.
Production. Start with a P. I feel like that was an incredibly like perfect word to describe the similarities between the two, because like the guests that are here for this production, this play, are very much like receiving the organized, thought out, planned out, dress rehearsed, if you will, production experience. Yeah, for sure. At a wedding. So that makes a lot more sense. And I think that word really hits the nail on the head there.
And with my background, like, just to interrupt you really quick, like musical theater and my interest in music in general, like, I think that I have like a very sensitive like heart and eye. Like that sounds so corny. But to music, and how like a certain music, like a musical note or a song can like really impact a moment. And that's very keen in musicals, because if like you can't say a thought or show how you feel in a musical, you sing about it. And I feel like that is really special with weddings, like the song you've chosen to walk down the aisle to, your first dance, like even just like the atmosphere that you're playing at cocktail hour, like it all sets a tone. And I'm just like so sensitive to music and how like it makes you feel, like whether I'm watching a movie or, I always joke that like I'll go see like a live performance of something and they play the overture and I'm like already in tears, because it's just like setting the stage for like what you're about to see. And it's just, I don't know, I love music and I'm like very sensitive to all that, and so I feel that is just like so special on wedding days too.
I feel like that's like a secret weapon that you may have.
Totally,
to be able to be intuitive in terms of music, the atmosphere, and like the lighting or the timing. As the planner, the coordinator, bringing all the moving parts together. The production together. This is making a lot more sense. I think with repetition, of course anyone's gonna become better at something, but to have an even deeper layer and the history that you have in theater, has built like that secret weapon, or maybe that's just part of who you are, like maybe emotionally, that you've been able to feel and connect and observe, maybe at a deeper level than others. Maybe. Am I making sense there, Alex?
No, you are. No, I think so. I think that it all just kind of stems from maybe just like my ultimately like my interests, like of what I've liked my whole life. So of course, like you spend the most time educating yourself on the things that you're interested in. So I don't know. It all kind of works out.
Your interests are coming full circle for me.
For sure.
Getting a little bit more of the Alex and over the top event story. In terms of like the growth over the years, 2015 is when you officially started Over the Top Events, correct?
Correct.
And partnering with Heidi.
Well, sorry. 2015 is when I started becoming a wedding planner professionally. And then 2016 is when Heidi and I partnered together at the end, towards the end of 2016.
Perfect. Perhaps, is there another milestone or two that you've been, you're excited about or proud of just with the growth of the company?
I mean,
share a little bit about?
We kind of talked loosely about just like saying yes and no to certain clients. Like, I'm really proud of that. I'm proud that you don't have to take every person that comes along your way, or, I'm proud that, not necessarily proud to like turn down work, but that I have the flexibility to do so, whether I'm not available or I'm already booked, or I'm already booked for the month, So I would say like that's a huge accomplishment, because when anybody starts a company, the first thing you're worried about is, are you going to make any money? And, I feel very comfortable with like the stream of revenue that I've brought in.
Speaking, vendor more broadly, if you could give advice or a tip to someone who's working to get to that position, they're still kind of like in the middle in terms of like, consistency and maybe saying yes a little bit more frequently than they could be, or more than they could be. What would you share to them? Like,
I probably just say for anybody like starting out to just like don't say no. Like, try to put yourself in any situation to meet people. Like, go to vendor mixers or like anything that's like happening in the wedding industry that you're invited to socially, because meeting one contact could like change everything for you. So I would say like putting putting yourself in that position, like, why not? Like, what do you have to lose? So, I mean, I really wish that I had like, you know, a go-to on like how I did this, but I think that it just, again, like in lines with my personality. Like if I have an idea about something and I like want to do something in my life, I figure out how to do it and I just do it. Like if I could go back in time, there are so many things that I could have done differently in how I started my business. Not saying how I went about it was bad in any way. It clearly it wasn't, but I'm like totally kind of like, okay, I have this idea. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Like, I just like jump and I do it and I go for it versus like milling over it. And that has its pros and cons.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm a hard worker. Like I'm passionate about what I'm working on and I just like don't necessarily stop until it's done. Like, I'm just like, that's just my personality. So I think work hard, like keep going, put yourself in good situations, you know, don't charge a crazy amount when you're just getting started because the biggest thing in this industry is experience. Like the price difference in like my first event that I ever did to like what I charge now is significant. And that's because like I deserve where I'm at now and I probably could raise my prices. Like, so I just kind of think, you know, I don't want to say like, I don't diminish your like self-worth, but there's nothing wrong with like learning, interning, you know, doing things cheaper so that you can have the experience because you're going to learn from it. I still learn from every event that I do, what worked, what didn't. And if you're like not continuing to grow, then like, what are you doing?
You're just being stagnant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump back. I smiled earlier because, you mentioned, you know, going to mixer meetings and getting involved with the community and whatnot. You were one of those people that I met. Shout out to Cooper Brown for making the introduction that have,
awesome.
you know, helped me, you know, grow and, you know, take a step up in terms of like what I'm capable of doing and seeing the value in my company, my DJing. So that's why I was smiling earlier. I think without going down a rabbit hole, there's a fine line between, you know, saying yes to opportunities and getting experience and you know, starting to maybe book with more confidence. And then on the other side of that line, like overwhelming yourself or doing too much. And you know, that's where, if I'm understanding right, and maybe for the context for listeners, is where you have those parameters in the sense of like, you know, I only have 20 events a year or 2 events per month. Did I kind of get that right, Alex? Yeah. Okay. I went a little all over the place there, but let's see here. So you kind of answered my next question I want to ask you, but if you could go back right now to 2015, 2016 and give yourself advice, give you and Heidi advice based off what you know now and the experience, what's 1 or 2 things you'd tell yourself?
I mean, I'd probably say like slow down a little bit in the sense of maybe like doing a little bit more homework and maybe jumping into like the luxury side of things, like right out of the gate versus being just like available to whoever needed it, you know? But then at the same time too, it's just like, you have to learn somewhere. So I can personally say I wouldn't want my first event to be at the St. Regis. Like, that's just like too intense. Like, that's too intense, too much money, too much uppity, I'll say it, uppity clientele, you know, entitled. Like, I don't know, like, I just like appreciated like maybe more of a conservative start. That didn't even answer your questions. Like, I don't even know, like maybe just slow down a little bit and try to do a little bit more homework before jumping in head first. But, you know, I don't know. It all worked out.
I think you answered it in two kind of different directions. One, like, you know, maybe do the homework and like identify my ideal client a little bit more.
Sure.
But then also like, had I done that, you know, I wouldn't be getting the experience that you have now. Is there maybe one more specific thing that you would love to just say, hey, Alex, do this or stop doing this?
You know, maybe a little bit more stuff on like the business side of things. Okay. Like, it's a lot. It can be a lot sometimes, just like taxes or, you know, setting up like all the things that you need, like the website, and maybe you need an accountant. Like, I don't know. There's just all sorts of things that come along with like being a business owner, and you know, it can be overwhelming, like learning as you go. So I don't know. Again, homework.
Maybe a mentor.
Yeah.
Did you have a mentor at all, or?
I did, but I don't know if I want to go into that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah.
It was fine, but you know.
Yeah. I think about that from time to time, and that is kind of like a topic that comes up just in episodes. I feel like having someone you can shadow or you know, bounce ideas off is and maybe that's like your accountant, or maybe that's someone doing the back end kind of tech work or social media management. For sure.
But, I mean, I will say me and Heidi have like mainly done all the heavy lifting ourselves, which has worked for us. And, you know, with our transition into how we're kind of doing things now, with her stepping back and me going full steam ahead by myself, you know, there's going to come some new challenges, and I'm thankful for the opportunities that we've had in the past to like move forward into this new section, because, you know, things aren't going to change too much, but there are a couple things that are going to change that, you know, maybe she handled that I didn't really handle, because, you know, with the business, I do a lot of heavy lifting in certain aspects, and she does heavy lifting in other aspects. And there are a couple of things that coincide with one another. And so we're kind of separating in that sense, and I'm doing what I need to do. Maybe there's a couple of jobs that I haven't done in the past. So, you know, that's kind of new, but I'm grateful that it's not like my first year doing all of it, you know? So,
yeah, I'm sure there has always been at some point some form of overlap in terms of those tasks.
Sure.
And then it's not like she's gone. You're still a resource and a great friend of many years.
Yeah, great friend. She knows what I'm talking about. So,
one more question, and then I think we're gonna wrap up so we can save some time and jump on to part 2. And I believe we kind of discussed a little bit about this, talked a little bit about this, but was it hard for you and Heidi to, I guess, identify and begin working with your ideal clients in the first year, 2-3 years of your partnership?
I don't know. The first thing that just kind of comes to my mind when you ask me that question is, like, sometimes you just gotta fake it till you make it. And I feel like, you know, maybe full circle, that goes back to me acting at one point, because I feel like if I don't have the answer to something right away, like, I feel like I just figure it out later. Like, I go in confident. I go in like I know what I'm talking about, and then maybe I get in my car and I'm like, oh shit, like, oh sorry, I don't know if you can swear on this podcast, but
take a deep breath and
you know, like, oh man, like, I don't know what I just committed myself to, or I've dug myself too deep this time, like, what am I going to do? Or I'm panicked, I have no idea where to start with this client. But I don't know, I just feel like that's the first step, like confidence. Like, if you believe that you can do it, like, why not? Like, and I will say, I can confidently say I've been a mentor to a couple of people who have interned for me, or, you know, whatever, worked with me, and they've kind of gone on to do their own thing, or they still work with me, or they apply the things that they learned with me in other jobs. And they've all said that they're really like thankful that I just kind of like gave them the confidence to do that, because, you know, that's like with anything. You just need like a little boost of confidence to like be brave enough to do it. And just fake it till you make it. Like, you know, I fake things every day. I do. Don't we all?
I mean, you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's like with motherhood, or it's like with my job, or, you know, when I go to a new venue and they're like talking to me about all their policies, and you're just like, yeah, that sounds great. You know, you just like keep like nodding your head, and then it's like, you'll read the fine print later, you know? I don't know. It's just better to have like a peace of mind, like while you're with clients or while you're with vendors, like, you know what you're doing, and like you got everything under control, and then you can figure it out when you get home. Full disclosure.
No,
I figure out things when I get home.
I mean, hearing a little about your story and your personality and your set a goal and you accomplish it, even though you don't know how, like, this makes a lot of sense to me. Mikey with Clementine was on here.
He's the best.
And he gave me an example that I think is very much like applicable to what we're talking about now. And it was like, this client was calling from out of state, had a very specific vision in mind and is custom and whatnot. And he booked with them. But didn't know exactly in the moment how he's going to make it happen. And he went and did the homework and the research and drove to another state to pick up stuff and create this vision to come to life. And what he said was very interesting to me, describing that. And it's like, the client doesn't need to know whether or not I have it on hand now or how I'm going to do it, but they need to know that I'm capable of doing it and I will do it. Yeah. And like, I thought about that for 4 or 5 times since that conversation. I'm like, you know what? That is honest, and it is like 100% spot on. Yeah. Maybe that's just, I'm coming from it took me some time to like process that and like accept that, because I don't have the confidence always that I'd like to have. I've always admired that about you, Alex. Thanks. Like, in terms of personality and getting things done and like sharp. Like, sometimes I'm a little intimidated. Really? Yeah, if I'm being honest, yeah. Oh, well, I just told you I fake it, so, But I don't figure it out, though. You figure it out. Yeah, that's interesting that Mikey said that, because I was completely scared to death when I booked my first destination wedding, like meaning that they were coming to Utah to get married. Which, side note, I mean, I grew up in Utah. I lived a little bit out of the state for a minute, but not long. And I used to be like, why are all these people like coming to Utah to get married? Like, it's so interesting. But Utah's a beautiful state, and we just take it for granted. Side note, but I just remember being so scared to book. Like, why? Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do my meetings? Like, all these things, like, because it was a little bit out of my comfort zone of how I work with my local people. But, like, you just figure it out. And then now, to be completely transparent with you, I actually kind of prefer it. Like, I prefer how I work, how I schedule things with my people that live out of state versus the people that live in state. I mean, they both have pros and cons for different reasons, but... that's funny that he said that he just like did it, wasn't sure how he was going to do it, but then you just figure it out, because you're only going to figure out if you do it. And it kind of goes back into that, just like jumping in, saying yes, shaking hands, introducing yourself. Yeah. Excellent. I think that's a perfect spot to end on. Episode 51 of Behind the Energy podcast, going behind the energy with Alex Jaramillo. Nailed it. Want to make sure we get that right. We will catch you next week for episode 52 and part 2 with Alex. Hasta la vista. That is a wrap. Thank you for listening and going behind the energy with me. If you loved it, thumbs up it. You can follow me on social media at Parker Andriese, and check us all out at bringingtheenergy.com. As for now, we are signing off, and I'll catch you next week for another episode. Peace.